Welcome everybody, one and all. Welcome, welcome. Welcome on Zoom, and welcome to those of you who are joining us on Facebook. I'm going to make sure this is flowing to Facebook accordingly. There we have it. Great. And if you're joining us live on Zoom, please do go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. And but make sure to set the little drop down to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see where you're coming in from and let us know. And we will get started here in just a few minutes as we let people trickle in. So, so sit tight and jump in the chat and say hello. If you're on Facebook, please do feel free to jump on and comment and let us know where you're tuning in from there as well. And we'll be taking questions later. So feel free to throw some questions in your comments on the Facebook feed as well. We've got folks flowing in from all over the world. Welcome, welcome. We've got Pavel from Russia. We've got Bocalia, Florida. Lincolnshire in the UK, Mark from Sedona, Cape Cod, Orange County, Romania, Poland. I said those things as if they're equally far away, but they're a lot further away in Romania and Poland. New Zealand, furthest of all probably. Little Rock, Arkansas, pretty close. Bonnie Doon, right down the street. This is great. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Those of you who are here and want to ask questions on Zoom, please feel free. The Q&A button is the way to do that, unless you want to talk live to Lee, in which case later on we'll have you raise your hands in Zoom and we can call on you and talk live with Lee towards the end of our session today. So I am going to make sure we're all good here, and I think we are. How are you doing, Lee?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Had a nice practice already this morning. Getting all set up here. Got a great cup of tea that I just brewed, so I'm ready to share.
What you brewing?
I'm brewing some 7572, which you explained the numbers and what they mean, much better than I can. But it's a really nice old refined tea that's it's like you drink it and you feel like you're in a meditative state. So it is a pu'er tea, a fermented tea from a particular region in China. We've been talking about that a lot when we've been doing our tea chats, but it is a great one to wake up to. It's not too much of a blast of caffeine. And I tend to like it if I've done a long practice first and then having some tea second. This is kind of the go-to one that I love.
Great. I love that one too. That one for me is it's a very potent, very crystalline energy, and not a very caffeine, but very crystalline. It's very focusing. You can get a lot of work done. You can get a lot of focus in and be in a good place for doing all sorts of activities. So I tend to find that one, as you say, it's not a big blast of caffeine, but it's a good activity tea.
Yeah. Activity like answering important questions.
Precisely.
And having a good conversation with folks.
Yeah, that's right. So we have, what are you guys drinking out there? I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm drinking, the other day when we did this, I was drinking a tea called 301, which is a blend between aged Sheng tea, like old raw tea, and ripened tea, which is this process where they accelerate the microbial thing that happens to the tea. And today I'm making my own blend. I've got this chunk off is the last of a Tocha 3917 while we're talking about numbers. And this thing's hard as a rock. It's just, I'm gonna need a chisel to get through it. And it's blended with Old Standby for me, which is absolutely one of my core teas, is Unblended Brick. That's another one that's available through Hidden Peak Tea House and is literally an unblended brick. It's a single harvest. Normally they make teas from a variety of teas pulled together to create a certain flavor profile, certain energetics. So they'll have, Trinity is a blend of 3 different harvests. As we know, that's one of Lee's favorites, if not Lee's all-time favorite. And so unblended brick is not. It is a tribute tea to the process that they discovered in 1976 to make it possible to drink these teas quickly without the overwhelm and the high energy and sort of like impact of drinking raw young pu'er, which a lot of folks don't like. So it was a 30-year anniversary, and one of the guys who was one of the engineers on that team at the Munghai factory went and harvested this, or found this harvest and decided to use it. And so they used the old school process. The process had evolved over 30 years from 76 to 2006. And they went back and used the original 1976 process to make unblended brick out of just a single harvest. And it's an amazing, it just came out straight down the middle in every way that a pu'er can be. Flavor profile, the color, the aroma, the leaf. It's really pretty amazing. So I've used that as a blend for all sorts of other teas. It's sort of a great base in addition to something I love to drink alone. So today I'm gonna hopefully figure out how to blend it with this rock from the 90s, and we'll go from there.
Wow, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Gosh, I know that some of those teas when you have to cut it with like a chisel, and it's amazing. You're like, really? I'm gonna steep this thing? How's this rock get off flavor? And it really does. It's amazing.
Right. I've got this one here.
Yeah.
The oldest tea I've ever had was the tea that was born in 1949, and it required a bandsaw to cut the brick down because it was a rock. And then he literally chiseled off several chunks, and we put them in the teapot. We drank that tea for 3.5 hours, and it was just still rocks coming out of there. And he drank it for like a month.
That's amazing.
It really was.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of tea, somebody sent me something, and they have a shop in Florida called Tea and Qi.
Oh, it's a great name for a shop.
Some nice tea from there as an appreciation for all the stuff that we're doing. We got a Florida Sunshine tea.
Nice.
And it's rhubarb and citrus peel and all kinds of fruity deliciousness, and a hibiscus celebration fruit tea. And that was for Maria. So that was wonderful. So thanks for that, Maria. And I didn't know she had, her business card says Tea and Qi. So.
Oh, I think that was JL from our last session, who then, I think it's she went down to her favorite shop because after one of the live classes, she told me she had sent us something special.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Well, I got it. And I'm going to
must be Maria, must be
good timing.
The tea purveyor.
Yeah.
Cool. Tea and Qi. What do you know? That's it.
We should all do like a tea exchange and just send each other our favorite teas. That would be quite a thing.
I'm into it.
All right.
Well, Mr. Holden, do you have anything you want to start out with? Do you have your tea ready to go? I'm still working on
pouring water right now.
Cool. Doing the first rinse?
I'm doing the first. I've already rinsed it, so it's ready to go. Yeah. Well, what a time in history. I mean, I think everything is, feels like the world's going a little crazy. We have, not only are we on the heels of this pandemic, but we have human rights escalation that we haven't seen like this in quite a long time. I think it's an important time in our history to make change and transition. People are speaking up and speaking out. it's interesting to have a social circumstance as well as a pandemic colliding at the same time. And, for me, always looking at what is the opportunity, what is this energy going to give birth to? And I think, the goal of this would be to come out the other side with a lot more compassion and kindness and a lot more interconnectedness, not only to each other, but to the earth and to nature. And this is kind of how Qigong and Taoism sees life in general. It's really about how is it that we can see energy, which is Qi, as something that unifies us all and not that creates separateness. And unfortunately, because we are skin encapsulated, we feel that we are separate from our environment and separate from each other when we all are participating in a unified energy field that flows through us. And this is the key term, flows through us, meaning that we're all, in this paradox of being a unique individual and completely connected and interconnected with our environment and each other. So how do we treat each other humanely with kindness and compassion and elevate our energy? And it really requires us to get out of our survival mode, to get out of stress, to get out of survival where we're thinking, where we're just viewing life from a very dangerous place. And this creates that separateness and that separate feeling from each other and creates division in class and race and all kinds of social issues that we see. I had a great interview with a local reverend here in Santa Cruz, Reverend Deborah, Rev D as she's known. And we just had such a great conversation about her point being othering and how othering creates this feeling of separateness, and this feeling of separateness creates the majority of problems in the world. And we're just seeing it really come out strongly. And it really is a call to action, a call for us to really step back and look and be observant, and then decide as a collective how we can make the world a better place. And I think that can be our intention for today. And with all practices, we come back to ourselves, we check in with our heart center. There's always yin and yang, positive and negative to pay attention to. And I think at this time, we can ask ourselves, how do I hold the complexity of both yin and yang in the moment? And this requires spaciousness. It requires us to hold the capacity for us to not just laser in on just one side, but also to hold spaciousness and the complexities of life so that we can integrate and move energy in a direction that we want to create and be creative in. Because, we're here on this planet for a short time, and how do we create a positive growth-filled experience here? And I think that's what we're struggling with. And that's I brought up a lot of things, and these are inquiries that we can sort of meditate on for ourselves and contemplate and really feel where it is that we land. So that's kind of my thoughts for our initial conversation.
That's so powerful and such a potent perspective to take. I love this idea that while we're all, skin encapsulated, we really are all one at a different level. We couldn't exist without the existence of literally everything else we're experiencing in the world around us. But I also, it's as you say, it's how could you have a perfect system unless somehow magically everybody was just totally enlightened beings? Then everything would just flow perfectly. Any system of government would work fine, right, that we've ever come up with. But we're not, and we're all working toward that, one might assume, or finding our path in the midst of all that towards a state of lighter being. And being able to show up and hold that space being able to help people create that spaciousness that you're describing in our world really feels like our place as a business, as a mission that we're on. Our mission is to help people feel that spaciousness, help people wash away the stress, the anxiety, the worry, the frustration, the anger, so they can come back into the work with that, from that place where their heart is open and they can find common ground where there's common ground to be found, and they can take a strong stand where there's a strong stand to be taken. Mm-hmm. It is so fascinating to me that, you know, this in Chinese zodiac, this is the year of the metal rat. And the metal rat is the beginning of 2 cycles. The rat is the first animal in the Chinese zodiac, and metal is the first element in the sequence. So it's a 60-year cycle that we're beginning here. And how could you possibly begin anew and change everything without upheaval? So having that perspective that, you know, whether you believe in Chinese astrology or not, it's just interesting. It occurred to me yesterday. I was like, yeah, this was going to be a nutty year because, you know, it's the start of so many new things, and so many things need to be replaced. And I'm finding, you know, they need to be brought into the light and then transformed. And I think that's happening, you know.
Yeah, man.
The metal rat is people are not going to be commuting to work after this. And that's that many more cars off the road, and that much less traffic, and that much less stress and anger and frustration. It's just on the pandemic side. And one hopes there will be a change in the way that our institutions treat the dignity of other human beings with all the other stuff that's going on as well. Fingers crossed. And certainly I feel like our work and your work, Lee, in particular, is so important for creating that lightness and that perspective and that connection to something deeper and compassion that happens naturally when you clear away all of these things that aren't spacious inside us. Yeah.
You know, it comes back to some very simple principles, and sometimes the simplest principles are the hardest to implement. You know, if we could do the simple things well, you know, doing the simple things well can lead to, you know, not only, you know, strong energy and health within ourselves, but also the simple acts of kindness and compassion and, you know, just treating each other well. It's a simple thing, but we just have such a hard time with that. And it happens on all layers. It happens, you know, interpersonally, it happens in our families, it happens, you know, in society at large. And that's part of our human journey, is to figure out how to elevate above the stress and the separateness and the me versus them, and come into our heart center. When we really invest energy in our heart center, when that heart center opens, that feeling of love and compassion and treating each other with respect is a very natural thing. So the cultivation of energy creates a natural, non-contrived way of moving through the world that is in alignment with a lot of our principles and what we're talking about. And if the energy doesn't move there, it's really hard for us to feel and initiate action from that place. When we're in survival mode and stressed out, we do have that feeling of being separate, because we're, you know, it's just a natural reaction in our nervous system that when we're really invested in our senses, we see the world as separate. But when we can move out of survival and elevate energy into the heart, we start to feel the interconnections. And it's true that we live in both realms. We live both in a Newtonian physical world, and we also live in a quantum world of consciousness, which creates a lot of confusion in what to do, because both are true, and that's the paradox. And being that both are true, that I am an individual and I need to look out for my survival, and what brings me the most joy in life is being connected in a loving space. It's quite a quandary. And how do we accomplish that in a big global level? And we just start with the conversation, and we start with what we have, where we have power. And where you have power is within ourselves, because I think a lot of people are really struggling with their powerlessness in these circumstances, and that creates a lot of stress. So Qigong's response to powerlessness is relaxation, so that we can enter into flow. And I think when you start to feel yourself getting stressed and worried, recognize that you can respond by just relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your breath, relaxing your mind into the moment. And that's a much more empowered response than getting tight, angry, agitated, because from relaxation comes clarity and that spaciousness where we can see solutions, where we're standing on top of the mountain rather than in the forest, and we have a lot more perspective. Then it's easier to guide and direct your life force energy into the directions that we really want and where we want to create. So anyways, let's answer some questions and see what people are thinking, where you're at, and let's have some tea. Maybe we should start with a little meditation.
I'm in.
I thought today we could start with a different meditation we were talking about gratitude, but finding, a lot of our tea and Qi docs, we're talking about gratitude, and we're usually doing a meditation where we're taking our tea and cultivating the energy. And let's go ahead and do that. Just pour yourself some nice hot tea, and we're going to take what we've been doing and just kind of add on to it. And what I wanted to do is come back to something simple. In fact, the simplest, and find gratitude in the simple things so that we can expand upon that. And it's actually when you can drop into gratitude, we're back in the heart center. So as soon as we're thinking about something we're grateful for, we move out of stress. And that movement from one state to another, I think, is very empowering. So to know we can change states within ourselves is empowering, and it helps us to get in a state that we want to be in. So let's just close our eyes and move some energy in the heart center. We'll just make this circular motion is a stirring in of energy, stirring the energy of our heart. Now, we can be grateful for the external things in our lives, but can you become grateful for your breath? So when you take a deep breath, we come back to gratitude for that breath, because it's the foundation of everything. It is the foundation of everything. When we don't have breath, nothing else matters. So when you inhale, just feel, hey, thanks for this breath. Thanks for this life force energy. And we just move that into the heart center. And anything that's preventing you from feeling gratitude for that breath, we're going to exhale it away. And your exhale can then become a blessing. So when you inhale gratitude, you exhale positive energy as a form of a blessing or healing energy going out into the world. So inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. Just a nice soft exhale, and send your positive intentions, gratitude, loving kindness out into the world, and just create a small shift, a small ripple in the field of energy. Inhale gratitude, exhale blessings. And let's affirm that as we take a sip of our tea. And the sipping of the tea is the bringing of the energetic intention into manifestation through our physiology.
Thank you.
All right, back to the simple things like breathing and tea.
Breathing and tea. And gratitude. There is certainly much to be grateful for. And every time you can draw breath, you're here, you're alive. I'm so pleased to be here with this community too. I love watching the people who are here engaged with the work and with these practices, and get the amazing results that they get in their life, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and in every way, really. So I'm very grateful you're all here. And I know Lee and I are always happy to get together with folks like you and like-minded people and settle in and get a chance to just connect with you. One way we can connect with you is by answering questions because people always have questions.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get started, shall we?
Let's do that.
All right. So those of you who are on Zoom, please feel free to go down to the Q&A button and put your questions in there. A little later, we'll take a couple of raised hands and answer their questions. So if you want to raise your hand to potentially ask a question live in person, then and on camera, then please do. You can do that by going to the participants button. It'll bring up a list of everybody in the meeting, and then you can click on the raise hand button below that. So want to get started with the stuff in the Q&A box?
Yeah, that sounds good. There's a couple of questions on the legs and leg circulation. Looks like there's quite a few questions on some personal issues, and always personal issues have, you know, deeper connections and global impact. So when we're just talking about the legs and we're doing some solutions for certain things, you know, even if you don't have leg problems, the things that I'm saying often are really good for preventative health or overall energy health and things like that. So Liliana is asking about leg circulation, varicose veins, and recommend some exercises and teas that might be good for the legs. And, you know, I always love pu'er tea. I mean, it's quite good for most things because it's great for overall health. It's good for digestion. It's full of antioxidants. So those kinds of things can just help overall health. Tea in general is great. I mean, especially if you're not overdoing it and drinking organic green teas for the antioxidants and whatnot. So keep drinking your teas. It's also warming. It's good for circulation. Teas like, you know, turmeric and ginger are also great for circulation and inflammation. And then in Qigong, the Qigong exercises are great for the legs. Sometimes it's indirect because you're standing on the legs, and and even when we're doing flowing movements and it seems like we're doing everything with the arms, you're building tremendous strength in your legs. Your legs are becoming like the roots of the tree, strong and grounded with an open flow of energy and circulation. So in general, Qigong is going to be wonderful for the legs. The other exercises that are good are things that are a wide leg stance, like full body flow, like swimming dragon. Anything that's shifting the weight left and right is going to really help pump energy through the legs. And so if you're on our subscription, we do those classes, we do those kinds of exercises a lot. And then periodically I come down to the floor, I do self massage on acupressure points through the legs. That can be very helpful, and we're stretching the leg lines. So there's kind of a whole protocol to work with the legs, and I try to cycle through that in our Qigong subscription. So for leg stuff specifically, I often recommend doing the subscription. Try it out for a month, see how it works for you. And then, you know, really Qigong in general is going to be wonderful for opening up the flow of energy in the legs. That was also somebody else's question. She was asking if you mentioned strengthening our legs. Is this muscular strength? And does muscular strength impede the flow of Qi? And no, actually, it's not muscular strength in the sense that we're doing deadlifts and squats or, you know, riding our bikes, you know, 100 miles or running marathons. That develops quite a lot of muscular strength, but it can overstrain the muscles sometimes. And, you know, for certain people, it's just fine to build a lot of strength. Anytime you're doing a lot of extra strength, we're investing a lot of energy into our muscles, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just requires extra energy, nutrition, and things like that. But Qigong, the wonderful thing about Qigong is it's very balanced. Everything is just the right amount of movement, the right amount of strength, the right amount of flexibility. As soon as we do things to an extreme, we have to be careful, whether it's strengthening or stretching. If you overstretch, we have to be really careful as well. And so what you'll see in Qigong practice is a combination of strength, gentle stretches, and then flows, which really build from our foundation and create this strong base of energy, and then allows it to move and circulate through the body. Now, the focus of this practice is Qi. It's not on strength, it's not on flexibility, it's not even on health, it's on balanced energy. But the side effects are a strong, healthy body, full of vital, vibrant life force energy, balanced emotions, and a clear mind. Those aren't necessarily the goals. That's not why we do the practice. You're doing the practice to work on your energy, and then you have all these wonderful and amazing side effects that will manifest differently for each of us individually. So you get your energy balanced, and then you get these wonderful side effects that are positive. And whenever we say side effects, we're not used to positive side effects, because we're used to medications and listening to side effects based on pharmaceuticals. And this is the exact opposite of what we're doing in Qigong. We're preventing problems, we're creating positive side effects, and we're building life force energy. And then Lynn asked, do you have a Qigong recommendation for spinal stenosis and fasciitis? Is that, I think that's like
fasciitis.
Fasciitis.
No, it's fasciitis. Yeah, it's fascia.
Yeah, fascia. You know, I was reading that as inflammation of your fascination, which might be a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm for that.
Well, spinal stenosis is challenging. It's sometimes it's congenital, sometimes it's you know, from sitting too long. And again, these things, the way to remedy spinal problems is healthy movement, to move the joints of the spine in all the various directions in simple, effective ways without aggravation. And so to move the spine in all of its various directions. Now think about this, you have so many joints in your spine and they all move in three directions. They rotate and they side bend and they flex and extend. And with all the joints and all that different range of motion, that is over 100 different ways that your spine can move. And if we're not moving, your spine naturally develops stagnation. Any joint in your body, if you don't move it, will have stagnation, will develop into stiffness, discomfort, and then pain. So what we want to do is keep the spine moving in all its various direction in healthy ways without irritating any of the tissue. And that's the goal of the practice. So we have, you know, a whole spinal workshop that we did. I almost always, in each and every class, go through spinal enlivening movements to keep people's backs nice and loose, well oiled. And, you know, the goal of Qigong practice is to develop that healthy, youthful spine. Because as human beings, we're the only creatures that stand and walk upright and erect. And most other animals, or all other animals, usually are walking on all fours. And your spine can get compressed because of our human nature. And then we've developed this into modern life where we're sitting too long and not moving enough. So you don't see children under the age 18 complaining about their backs as much as adults, unless they're injured, unless they, you know, fall off the bars at a playground or something, because they're moving their bodies constantly and that spinal cord fluid is constantly flowing. So let's do spinal enlivening, an exercise like spinal cord breathing, where we're just moving the spine back and forth with deep breathing, can be extremely helpful. And this is something that can be done sitting. So if you want to, you can, let's just do a little spinal cord breathing. You inhale and look up, and you exhale and around your back, just drop your chin down towards your chest, and then inhale with a deep breath and look up, and exhale, drop that chin down to the chest, elbows almost touch. And when you're moving the spine like this, you're getting a lot of healthy energy pumping through the back. It activates the cranial sacral system. And so to do something like that once every hour while you're sitting can be extremely helpful.
I've certainly found that to be the case. Spending all this time slinging all the tech to make these shows happen.
Yeah.
We got a couple others on the back topic, since you are an expert in back pain. That's part of Lee's origin story. It was a pretty bad back injury. So he actually learned a lot of this stuff just to kind of find his way here. So there are a couple of other questions on the back pain topic. One is regarding back issues, arthritis, scoliosis. Somebody's just got over, Susan, just got over major fatigue due to detox, but her back hurts with long-standing or unsupported sitting. Is it better to do the whole 40-minute routine but take little breaks, or do shorter routines? Also,
that's great. I mean,
Qigong help with the inflammation pain itself? Is there any specific exercises for inflammation?
I think some of the things that we just said is great. So if you're feeling fatigue, it's good to take little breaks. So, do the whole 40 minutes and then take little breaks, because you'll get a well-rounded movement practice for your whole body. And if you have the time, you just take a little break, go have some tea for 5 or 10 minutes, get a drink of water, sit down, lie on the floor, hug your knees into your chest, come back to the practice. That's wonderful. I encourage that. But just doing 20 minutes of the practice is wonderful as well. Ideally you get in the whole 40 minutes, because it's good for all aspects of our energy system. But if you just do part of the practice, wonderful as well. As long as we're moving our bodies in different ways and putting our attention on the life force energy within us, it's going to be extremely beneficial. So even a short, let's say 20-minute practice, and then throughout the day, spacing it out with some Qi breaks, can be extremely beneficial, meaning that you do your 20-minute practice in the morning, and then periodically through the day, you're doing 2 or 3 minutes, like we just did, spinal cord breathing, or a neck stretch, or you stand up and you do a nice flow. When we get stressed out, you stand up and do some shaking and cleanse and clear. Those 2 or 3 minute Qi breaks through the day, surprisingly, are tremendously helpful.
Excellent. I have another one that says, it's kind of a simple one. But you were talking about doing things like the spinal cord breathing and so forth. John asks, how do you modify Qigong for somebody who has osteoporosis around the T7 vertebra? The doctor says to watch forward folding or rounding. And how would you modify in that case?
Okay, so osteoporosis around T7. So that's kind of mid-back. So we have the 7 cervicals, and you have 12 thoracic in your mid-back, and then you have the 5 lumbar in your lower back with the sacrum underneath. That's a lot of moving parts, right? And sometimes we all have some injuries. Back pain is very, very common. It's like with upper back pain and lower back pain, it's over 100 million people. That's kind of a third of the population experiencing back pain of one form or another at any given time. So with osteoporosis, often the recommendation is not to do forward bends. We don't want to add any extra pressure on those joints. What I find is that you can do a lot of the movements. You just modify them to make them simpler. And that what I think we have to be careful of is babying certain areas of our bodies, and that create stagnation. Perfect example is frozen shoulder or a finger injury. If you put your hand in a cast and don't move it, if you put your shoulder in a sling and don't move it, you develop a worse problem from the lack of movement than the original injury. Mm-hmm. And so we want to keep the spine moving. So you don't have to do a full forward bend, but make sure you're getting the movement into that area so that the Qi can circulate. For any osteoporosis type of diagnosis, we have that Qigong for Healthy Bones. And there is a classic. It's funny because it's called Bodhidharma's Classic of Bone Marrow Washing. It's a book. It's a Qigong book. I'm sure you've all read it. It's a classic. Kind of like boring Harry Potter. Talk about way back in the day what the bones, you can strengthen your bones through infusing them with energy and certain muscular contractions and certain exercises. And then as we look at modern research is saying, hey, weight-bearing exercises, things like jumping rope, that girls, when they jump rope, as younger women and girls, they have a less likelihood of developing any bone problems because of the stimulation to the bones. And so part of that routine is the shaking, is the weight-bearing exercises, some muscle contractions where we're infusing the bones with energy. Now, this is not only, it wasn't designed as a osteoporosis remedy, although the studies from Shanghai are showing that people that practice this build bone density. And so that's the exercise that I would recommend. But the bones in Qigong were seen as great places to store energy. They're seen as crystals, and they are conduits of energy. Now, interestingly enough, when you put your bones under pressure, the scientific term of the electricity in the bones is called piezoelectric. And this is, I love this because science is confirming and giving language to this modern language to an ancient system. And so we're getting some nice research showing, hey, bones have electricity. And they've been saying this for thousands of years. And actually science is saying, yeah, actually it's piezoelectric, that under stimulation, electricity moves through the bones. And interestingly enough, piezoelectric qualities happen in your bones and in your pineal gland, because there's little crystals in your pineal gland that get stimulated with pressure. And so we're going to be doing microcosmic orbit workshop this weekend coming up, and we're going to be talking about the pineal gland and how to stimulate those crystals to wake up this center, often called the third eye, or in Qigong, it's called the crystal room. Interesting, right? Way back when they called this center the crystal room, and now recent research is showing pineal gland has crystals that get stimulated. When those crystals get stimulated, electricity flows, called piezoelectric. Now, you know, I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I've just read a lot, and I've interviewed a lot of scientists. And so, you know, the work of some of the neuroscientists, if you're interested in this, can be really fascinating in how it connects to Chinese medicine. So we want to stimulate the bones in a way that isn't irritating, and that brings strength into the crystalline structures of the bones and the bone marrow. And we do that in the Qigong for bone, healthy bones practice.
Well, speaking of bones, Mira's asking, she says, if I'm remembering correctly, you've mentioned that the bones, which are related to and part of the kidney energy system, are like water, the deepest part of the body. She says, does this refer only to the long round bones of the arms and legs? The other bones, such as the pelvic girdle and chest bones, or the cranium, are more towards the surface. Please clarify.
Good physiological observation, right?
That one never occurred to me.
Yeah,
because all this time.
And like when you're thinking about the you know, the sternum, for example, this, you know, there's deeper things like your heart and your organs, which are also considered deep energy reservoirs. So the bones in the arms and the legs are the deepest area, but some of the bones, like the rib cage and the chest, maybe aren't, but they're deep. And within the bones is bone marrow. So this is kind of like water will settle to the deepest. And so as the water is settling, the water energy in the bones, it's kind of like the bones filter the energy, and then it settles into the bone marrow, and the qi turns into blood. So blood is considered a kind of qi. It's called yin qi. It's like this, it's where the invisible life force energy all of a sudden starts to take shape and form. And if we think of qi as life force energy, blood is part of that. For example, if we bleed too much, if we lose too much blood, there's no more qi left in our bodies, and we perish. So blood is a form of qi, just in the same way breath is a form of qi. Blood is just a more tangible form than breath, but they're both considered life force energy. So this is what we look at in Chinese medicine. But Chinese medicine isn't absolute. It's kind of both art and science combined. And that's how we are. So nothing is absolute. There's always a yes and or a yes but in Chinese medicine, like the bones. Yes, they're the deepest area. Yes, but what about the sternum? It's not the deepest. and it's never 100%. And that just goes to show that life is really like that we don't understand everything about life. You know, I frequently say, as soon as you look at one of our systems deep enough, we run into the mystery. We run into the unknown. We don't know how the heart works or how all the liver cells function and do so many things all at one time. So we are mysterious, mystical, magical beings that we will hopefully never fully understand, because as soon as we understand one thing, the universe, you know, creates another mystery. And, but yes, it is coming back to less esoteric topics. The bones are considered part of the water element controlled by the kidneys. The water element and the kidneys are related, and the bones are the water element's area of influence because of the depth and the crystalline structure of the bones.
Very interesting. I find those perspectives fascinating because they all fit together so well, and how the area, you know, each of the elements and the areas that they govern, once you kind of dig a little deeper into it, it's a little uncanny how it actually seems to have the cohesiveness, and it's just kind of, the deeper you go, the more cohesive it is.
Yeah,
it's not arbitrary at all. It really is powerful.
Yeah.
Got a couple of questions coming up around Tier 2 teaching certification. We have some people out there who have already gone all the way through the teacher certification program and are out there in the world spreading Qigong and sharing it with others. And we're very, very pleased to have those people. And normally we would be having them here to do our advanced Tier 2 teacher training week and some other in-person requirements for Tier 2. You can do all of Tier 1 online, and then some of Tier 2, we want to get people together and start to have a little more of a transition process or a transmission process, and a little more of the transformational experience that you get by being in person doing this work intensively for a week at a time. This year, we were probably not going to we were going to put out some surveys and figure out if we had enough folks ready for another Tier 2 week this year. So we were likely to end up doing it sometime next summer or sometime next year. There's not really a time limit on Tier 2 certification, so we haven't really decided to scrap everything and come up with a new way of achieving Tier 2 without having to be in person. And as things unfold, eventually we may be pushed into doing so. However, we are releasing the Dao Yin training this year. Can't say when, but the Dao Yin training this year. So that will be something you can do to work towards Tier 2 online. And then as things go on, and as far as the Buddha poem coming up, it's not the full medical Qigong week that you have when you come in person and you move energy amongst each other and start doing partner work. So it's not going to count towards the Tier 2 certification or the Tier 3 certification as a replacement for the full medical Qigong week. It's just an online course that goes over the Buddha poem stuff. However, if you do it, then you can get the money you spend on the Buddha poem course credited towards the full week-long medical Qigong training that we do in person, if you are ready for that when the time is right and we're having in person again, hopefully soon. So I just wanted to handle some of those logistical ones. And anything jumping out at you, Lee?
Next. Let's see. Here's one that's nice. It's somebody from Russia, Pavel, and he's thanking us from all of his heart for guidance and helping him recover after surgery in December. So the question is, his wife seems to lose some stamina after doing Qigong rather than obtaining it. So sometimes in the beginning, when you're doing Qigong afterwards, you know, you're just like, hey, I'm supposed to be getting all this energy, but I feel really tired, or I feel like I just want to go take a nap or rest. And this is your body speaking to you that your energy reserves need filling up. So you do some Qigong, and that if you're yin deficient, which a lot of us are, after doing Qigong, your body will say, let's keep replenishing. Let's keep this up. Let's go take a nap now. Let's go sit down and relax. Let's continue this filling up, because often through life, you've just put so much energy out, and that when we're in our inner world, it's often full of anxiety or stress. And then all of a sudden you clear the stress, you start moving some energy, and we feel, well, now I'm really tired, because you actually are doing a lot of restructuring and a lot of work. So if, like Pavel's wife, if that's something that you're experiencing, you just keep going. You're continually filling up the tank, and you're starting to charge up these inner batteries, and that will switch so that you, after some time, everybody's a little bit different. Sometimes even after a week or 2 weeks or a month of practice, all of a sudden you get this new surge of energy, and you feel totally transformed afterwards. So listen to your body. If after practice you feel sleepy and tired, or you feel like you need to rest, do so. If you can, get some extra sleep, and your body's going to start healing on some very deep levels, which require some energy. And so you're giving your body what you need. And then, sorry, Pavel's question disappeared. He had another question in there, but I think that was the main part of the question. Pavel, I'm sorry, I don't see your question, the rest of it anymore. But yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think that's a great point for a lot of us to say, hey, you know, this Qigong is about less stress, more energy, but sometimes we have a healing crisis that comes up. Sometimes we feel tired. And think of Qigong as giving you what you need in the moment to create a deeper layer and level of healing.
The rest of Pavel's question was actually really very sweet. He says, could you please give me advice so that she could do Qigong with me more easily and frequently? I like it so much better when I do Qigong with her.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, also with those, you know, maybe shorter practices, if it's, you know, doing 20, 30 minutes rather than a full hour. And what seems to help the process is doing some of the healing sounds at night, so that when you're sleeping and rejuvenating, your body's resting more deeply. So healing sounds at nighttime can be a great way to help your body do what it needs to while you're resting and sleeping.
Great. Well, I think it's time to pull some from our illustrious Facebook audience, who's been over there presumably commenting away, and Zach can fill us in on where we are with that. So
yeah, we have a few questions coming in from Facebook. One from Sandy. Last week we did a class focusing on swimming dragon. I loved it and it was wonderful. I would like to see a whole program on it for purchase. I'd buy it in a second. My question is that I realized during the practice I need to do some work on breathing capacity. A few T with Lee's ago, you did a breathing exercise. Could you please share an exercise or two to increase my breathing capacity?
Increasing breathing capacity. You know, I've done some great breathing and breath courses during this kind of pandemic time, because everybody's concerned about the respiratory system, and it is the first place where Qi comes in. So putting attention on your breath and your breathing practice can be vitally important for so many things, whether it's clearing emotional stress, increasing energy, or overall health and longevity. The breath is so important. We talked about pressure points on the chest. Yesterday's class in our subscription, we did a lot of different points right along here and stimulating the chest. So what you can do, I mean, this one's a nice one to do while you're sitting, is you just inhale and pull the arms back and keep inhaling as much as you can. And then you exhale and sink your chest back all the way out. And what I want you to do is just stretch all the intercostal muscles. You look up a little bit. We can all try this because this is wonderful. You just pull the arms back, inhale, inhale, and try to inhale a little bit more. And then exhale, sink your chest back, and then exhale more. Just kind of finding the stretch through both the top of the inhale and the bottom of the exhale. So that might be my top of my inhale, but if I pull my arms back a little bit more, I can feel the stretch and I can even breathe deeper. If I look up, I can breathe deeper, finding those little spaces to breathe into. And then you exhale, and that might be the bottom of my exhale. But if I really focus, I can exhale more. And then I can exhale a little bit more and more and more. And around the back, exhale more. And then inhale. And this is a great way to open up the lungs, the chest, the diaphragm. And remember that your breathing capacity is more about your muscles, the mechanics of the breath, rather than the lungs, because the lungs are passive. They don't do anything. And it's the muscles in the chest, the ribs, the intercostal muscles, and the diaphragm that allow you to breathe. So hopefully that helps. But that is a great exercise for increasing respiration and strengthening the lungs. And then if you are a subscriber, if you watched last night's class, I did a lot of pressure points for the immune system, and especially these points here are good for the emotional energy of the lungs, which is sadness, and it's grief, and it's a feeling of being down or getting depressed. And how do we open these points up to transform energy so that that doesn't take root in our own physiology and our personal systems?
That was great. We have another question from Nancy. She's looking for something to help her out with seasonal allergies, specifically for grass.
Seasonal allergies. I know that's tough in a lot of places. So I usually like, Chinese herbs for allergies are fantastic. I find that nettle, the stinging nettle supplement, is really great for allergies. So you have nettle, you have quercetin and bromelain, that's really good. And then a Chinese formula for allergies is called Pi Min Kan Wan. Did you get that, Zach?
Definitely.
If I were one of, I just rattle off Chinese herbs because that's the only Chinese I actually know. But it sounds like I'm speaking Chinese, and I am, but it just is some herbal formula. So Pi Min Kan Wan is the Chinese herbal formula for allergies. It's spelled P-E-M-I-N K-A-N-W-A-N if you're interested. But these points right here and doing those respiration exercises can be really helpful for boosting our immune system, for opening up the sinus passages. So what I like to do is right on the sides of your nose, there's a little indentation here. I put the middle finger there and I push and I circle, and it should be a little tender. And you can often feel it right through the sinus passages, and then take some real deep breaths through your nose. And then I would recommend our Qigong for Better Breathing program on the website, Qigong for Better Breathing. Website is getting now quite full of condition specifics. I'm really proud that we have so many titles that is addressing so many things. I mean, I know there's a lot more to go, but
sure.
Good routines out for our condition-specific.
They sure are, but they can be a little hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And we know it. We're working on it. We don't have a search box. We don't have a very easy way to navigate the increasing volume yet, but it's part of that metal rat thing. This year is the year of building new foundations and tearing down some of the old. So the thing is, often if you're looking for previous workshops and you go to our products and you hit previous workshops, there are pages down at the bottom that you can click through to get to more. So if you don't see it on the first page, click through and see if you can find it on the second page.
And we have another question for the teacher trainers. Is the Holden Qigong Tier 1 certification recognized by the National Qigong Association?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we're working with the National Qigong Association, you finish our Qigong Tier 1, and then you just apply to the National Qigong Association if you want to. And you say that you've done your 200 hours. You pay their National Qigong organization fee, and you're part of their level 1 or level 2. I forget what hours it is, and you can work your way through their ranks. But yes, once you finish our Qigong teacher training, then you just apply to theirs and they recognize it as hours and credit for their organization as well.
Yeah, that's great. And we have another question about symptoms and stuff like that. Haley says, do you have any recommendations for preventing hay fever and or minimizing the symptoms, or any tea recommendations? And nettle tea seems to be helping, she says as well.
Okay, good. I think that was a similar question as the previous one. So do Qigong for better breathing, those points on the sinuses, that formula that I recommended, the Pi Min Kan Wan, is great for allergies.
Yeah, that's great. And we have a question from Christina. It's a strange time to try for a baby, but it is what it is. I was wondering if Lee had any exercises for fertility or preparing the body, mind, spirit.
The microcosmic orbit, the workshop that we're doing, is wonderful. In there, we also have exercise and Qigong exercises like ovarian breathing, and stimulating the energy of the lower dantian is really good. Sometimes what happens with fertility is not enough energy going into the uterus. And for women, stress seems to be a huge cause of infertility, because when we're under a lot of stress, your body is prioritizing safety over reproduction. So getting out of stress and moving Qi into the lower abdomen, the lower dantian, and then circulating energy through this channel right here is called the conception vessel. Now it's conception vessel because it helps us to conceive not only a child, but it also helps us to bring into manifestation what's in our mind downwards towards the belly, which is the earth center. So sometimes we have an idea and the energy coming down helps it to give birth into physical form. And so this workshop that we're doing this Sunday will address some of those issues, and it's not specifically for fertility, but microcosmic orbit is a wonderful exercise to help with all of those things and to stimulate fertility.
Perfect. And last question from Facebook, similar to the first one, but from John. What are some good breathing techniques to start your day with, and some that are good to end your day with?
Okay, so we want to start the day with energizing. You know, often we want to charge ourselves up, give ourselves, as they say in Qigong, a lightning flash of vitality to start the day. So doing a nice practice where you're stimulating energy. Let's say Qi massage and knocking on the door of life, where your hands are knocking on your kidneys and your lower back. Great exercises to start the day. Exercises to end the day, we want to clear the stress that we've picked up, anything that we've picked up. So I'd say shaking, you know, good 2 or 3 minutes of shaking at the end of the day with the heart sound, clearing off anything. After shaking, you can do some pulling down the heavens as a way to just come back to your center and refresh your energy, calming your mind and replenishing your body.
Great. And with that, we're all set with questions from Facebook.
Fantastic. So it is time now for us to take a few people live and in person. So if you haven't already raised your hand and you'd like to, we will have time probably for 5 or 6 of you. And I see a few folks already doing it. The way to do it, Zach just put in the chat, but I'll explain it too. It's go down to the participants link. That'll bring up a list of people, and at the bottom there's a raise hand button. So that's how we do it. And we're going to go ahead and start off today with Fatima. Fatima, you'll be rejoining in a sec, and we shall see what Fatima has in store for us. I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but I'm hopefully not mispronouncing it too badly. Hi, Fatima. And hopefully you'll let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name horribly. I think we can hear you. Maybe not. Okay. She had to hit a button to be brought in as a panelist, but then got quiet and disappeared. All right, Randy Rosenfeld is next up, and we'll see what Randy has in store for us. Okay, Randy, we're going to put you back in the pool. I should have remembered that I'm supposed to clear all the hands and then tell people to raise their hands now, because it seems like people get busy with other things if they raise their hands at the beginning. But we have 4 people who just raised their hands and they get dibs. So Gabriella is going to come back in, and she just raised her hand, so I'm pretty sure she's nearby. Hi there. We can hear you.
How are you?
We can see you. Beautiful.
Nice to see you. So Lee, I have a couple of questions for you. I teach regularly, and sometimes you're my only source of workout. So I do your online videos, and I have for almost a year and a half. I get confused with Bear Swimming series. So I was under the impression that in the Bear Swimming series originally there's 3 movements, which is the traditional one, and then coming home to the heart, and then there's another one coming up from the bottom where you exhale with your arms up and inhale with your arms down. But a couple of times I was watching your online videos, and I hear the word white crane soaring. So I'm kind of like,
Yellow, what's the difference?
Which is which?
Which is which? Because different teachers teach similar movements but call them different names. So you're right. That's very good observation, because now Bear Swimming, we're doing, we're doing this.
Right.
Right. And then we have the reverse of that. We're coming home to the heart, or,
coming in. So
right, Bear doing the butterfly stroke.
Exactly.
Now, white crane, what this particular teacher has done is added the spinal wave and whip. So you're whipping the spine as you're doing this movement, which is the white crane style. So you're exactly right. It's the same movement, but now when you add the spinal wave, it becomes white crane style. So sometimes I like to show, differences in movements and one style versus another, because as soon as you shift something as simple as moving the spine, it really creates a different energy and a different feel to the movement.
Right.
So when we're doing this flow of coming home to the heart, our intention is really to put energy on the heart, to gather positive heart energy. And when we're doing white crane, we're doing more of the spinal wave. And even in that style, we do one arm at a time.
Exactly.
And so it's just a different teacher and a different style that I've studied. And I'm sharing that knowledge with you guys. And somebody did ask a question earlier, what style of Qigong that I do. And I really have studied a lot of Qigong with different masters. And so I like to integrate. I like to have the intention be on a condition or something modern and relevant. I like to look at the principles of practice, and then the particular style isn't as important, because we're in a modern society, modern life with different problems, and we can really just fine tune it for ourselves, and we understand, the recipes, so that we become the chefs of our own internal energy systems.
Right. So we can modify, because you're right. There are times when I will do the Great Bear Swimming, and I will add myself the spinal undulation of my lower back, because I have a tendency to be weak in my lower back. So then at that point, you're saying it becomes a little more like white crane soaring.
Correct. That's it.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. Keep up the good work. I'm into the lady who said Swimming Dragon series. I love Swimming Dragon. So
well, we're planning some next workshops, and that is in the top 5 list. So
yeah, it's a nice movement. My students love it. So
I like it.
All right. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Yeah, you too. Wonderful. Thanks,
Take care.
What would be the best season for that, Lee? Because I've been wanting that Swimming Dragon workshop too, and now the audience has spoken. We have to.
Okay, let's do it. Well, I mean, I think you can do Swimming Dragon anytime.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of connections with the liver and the wood element. So spring it's related, but man, Swimming Dragon, because it is really a profound exercise for health and longevity. It's one that's practiced all year round and
great.
Can easily be integrated. So I say we try to get to it sooner. You know, maybe late summer or something like that. We could do it.
Perfect. All right. Well, next up we have Clemencia, or some variation of whatever I did to mispronounce it. I apologize. Hi, Clemencia. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for taking my question. Thank you for having this type of webinars. It's really inspiring. And today, Lee, you clearly love how you say, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I read a lot and this is what I have to say. Then it really resonated with me because I am a scientist and I'm a Qigong and Tai Chi practitioner for over 10 years. And I have practiced with people that might have trained with older masters and so on, and have a difficult time on balancing the science and the ancient masters. Then I sort of want to thank you and commend you for the way you put the two together. And then I want to finish by asking you if any of the reading of neuroscientists has particularly helped you or you find of interest. Just, I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm good friends with Dan Siegel, and I love his work.
All right.
You know, we had some great conversation. I've taught with him, you know, at Esalen Institute when we could all get together on it was a focus on mindfulness and compassion workshop. So I was kind of the movement specialist, and then we had all these scientists and researchers, but I would get people in their bodies and do actually practical practices to affirm the science that they've discovered through their research. And so I love Dan Siegel and his work on mind and neuroscience, and, you know, the Wheel of Awareness is a fantastic meditation. I love Bruce Lipton and his work.
Okay.
He's local to Santa Cruz, and we've done some workshops together. And, you know, part of my passion is to really integrate and create complementary ways of looking at the world, because as soon as you change the paradigm, there's a new way of looking at the world, whether it's looking at the world through the lens of energy, of science. And as soon as we change the science, you're looking at the world in a different way. So are you looking at it through a psychologist lens, a sociologist, a neuroscientist, a quantum physicist? You know, they're all going to see the world in a different way. And as we start to complement, we say, oh, we can look and point to truth and use a language that's similar but not the same, and develop more spaciousness, to develop more vantage points, to create, you know, real practical wisdom on how to help us make our lives better.
Thank you. Those are great. Those I'm familiar with them, but thank you so much. It's really, for me, it's like, if one of the principles of the practice is to be open, why wouldn't we consider all the different aspects of humankind? It's like,
that's it. And I think we're seeing that, and now more than ever, people are open-minded. You know, the science is opening up, where we do have enough research pointing to the direction that even simple things like, yes, stress is not good for our health. Let's clear stress. And, you know, yes, the mind and consciousness is a really fascinating, mysterious part of who we are. And, you know, let's get fascinated. Let's get curious, because as soon as we start to, from any of our professional disciplines, as soon as we say we know the right answer, all of a sudden the answer and the paradigm changes. You know, I was interviewing Deepak Chopra not too long ago, and he was very emphatic about, as soon as we think we have the answer, the conundrum is that the paradigm changes, and then we don't have the answer that we think we had. Something changes. So to be be comfortable in the unknown can be really helpful to continue our growth as human beings.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great answer. I really enjoyed it when we did a joint workshop with Dr. Dan Siegel. It was really interesting. It's a whole different paradigm, but not that different really, it turns out, which is what's so amazing about being alive at this time. Okay, we have Patty. Patty is on her way back to us, and she's got the power.
Unmute.
Unmute. Hi, Patty.
I'm using my phone, so I'm not sure that you can see me.
Not yet.
We can hear you though.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, I think I can start my video.
It works.
I just have to say thank you to Lee. I was introduced to this when I was very sick back in 2003. I saw you on PBS, and I had a lung condition that my doctor told me I would never recover from. And his name is Dr. David Christiani at Mass General Hospital. He's the pulmonary expert at Mass General Hospital. Well, I started doing your practices. I bought some of the videos. I was practicing. And over a 5-year period, I really got into it. I bought more of your videos, practiced more. I was seeing a holistic counselor. And guess what? In 5 years, he told me I had above average lung functioning, and he kept asking me, what are you doing? And so I shared with him what I was doing. And I was also seeing a doctor of Chinese medicine using the herbal remedies. And he said, you've cured yourself with Qigong. So I want you to know that you have a very influential supporter at Mass General Hospital. He learned Mandarin. He goes to China 4 times a year. He wrote a paper on how you can heal yourself with Qigong. So anyway, this was affirmation for me that this truly does work. And so I was looking around down Cape Cod where I spend the summers for a Qigong class, and who did I find but David Silva, who's now helping you with your documentary.
Oh yeah.
So now, so I started taking classes with David Silva, loved it, became certified eventually with a local Chinese doctor of Chinese medicine. And I just want to say thank you, and it does work. And I've gotten affirmations from some of my clients that are practicing. I had one woman come in and she said, I've been on inhalers for 15 years. Do you think I can come off my inhalers like you did? Because I told my story. And I said, not without your doctor's permission, of course. And within a year and a half, she came in to say, I no longer need inhalers. And I said, did you check with your doctor? And she said, yes, I have above average lung functioning. So I was just like, okay, the whole world needs to learn about this.
Yeah.
How to wake up the body, self-ability to heal. And it's just so exciting. So to this day, I have told all of my my followers to go on your site right now to join in with this global community. And I just feel the energy finally lifting. I know there's some sadness out there in the world, but can you just address how powerful that this collective gathering is to what is going on in the world, and that they should really, I don't know, look at this with some joy and feel that they're staying home. Yes, we're staying home a lot here in Massachusetts. That's where I'm from. It's been devastating here, but I said, you are doing so much good by staying home and practicing your Qigong. And now I'm teaching on Zoom because I said, well, Lee's doing it. I think I'll try it. I'll learn it. So I learned something new while I'm sheltering. And I'm telling you, I have 50 to almost 100 people now following me. And I'm so excited that we're not sad every day anymore. We're not feeling lonely and depressed or that anyone's taking our freedoms away. I'm telling you that this is the most powerful form of movement I have ever found in my life. And I want to thank you. Thank you so much.
That's so wonderful. Thank you, Patty. That is wonderful. And I think, you know, when we do something that works, we get passionate about it. It lights us up. So when you recognize your own inner power It's profound. So when you have a problem and you have an issue, and then you start a practice that you're doing for you, that is not a medication, and all of a sudden your body heals, you're just like, wow, why aren't more people doing this? And that's
Yes.
how I felt, way back in the day when I first started doing Qigong, and I was like, why aren't more people doing it? Why don't more people know about this? And that's what set me on my path of self-discovery and how to articulate it in a way that makes sense for people so that they'd actually do it and get these profound results. Because sometimes as Westerners, if it doesn't make sense, we won't do it. And if it makes sense and then we do it and then it works, it's like everything's lined up for us to make a profound change. So I think, I'm just addressing that first part where you got confirmation. Not only did you feel better, but the doctor was saying, hey, what'd you do? And we have thousands of stories like this. And that's what's so wonderful. You didn't have to take any medication. You didn't have to, be anybody else. You did it for yourself, which is extremely empowering. And I think what you said too, now bringing up to kind of your question and your point that, hey, we have shelter in place. It's not that, we don't want to address the sadness, because people are going through very tough times. People are lonely. People are stressed out. People are getting sick. Their loved ones are suffering if they've caught and contracted this sickness. But, this is where we are in life, and we're facing our powerlessness, and we're facing the unknown. And how do we do it? Coming through it on the other side. How do we come through it stronger, wiser, kinder, and more connected? And that's what we want to do. It's not that we're going to avoid all of life's challenges and never be sad and never have difficult times. It's that we use those challenges as opportunities to grow and get stronger. So what is the opportunity at this particular time? And like you said, we are at home, we're in place. So what is the opportunity? I'm not going to just stay home and suffer through it and get more and more stressed out and depressed. Let's take the opportunity and do something like Qigong, like meditation, like, writing the book that you wanted, learning arts, whatever it is that the opportunity is for you. Qigong is the path of self-discovery, discovering how we can heal ourselves, discovering the power of our own mind, discovering the power of what's in our hearts, to be able to be self-reflective, to understand. And really what it's about is developing a positive relationship within ourselves, because we have so many different parts that comprise who we are. So our minds and our emotions and our bodies, if we can all be in good harmony and communication with ourselves, we come out more powerful. And that's the opportunity we're facing right now. And so as you're at home and doing these things, just have that as a reflection. Spend more time doing your practice. Often we just need to get off our devices and our social media, unplug and re-plug into something else that's going to give you the energy that you want. Because going through life, we acquire Qi, we acquire energy, but it's usually the energy of stress, the energy of worries, the energy of lack or fear. Those are just energies that we start to tune into and pick up. So we want to unplug from that and then re-plug into, now what is it that you want? We want to feel happy, healthy, fulfilled, connected. And those energies are something that we can plug into. And this is a practice that allows you to take steps, step by step, on this well-trodden path to self-fulfillment. And then if we do those steps, all of a sudden, hey, we feel better, we feel more alive, and we feel connected to our higher power.
This is really helping nurses. A lot of nurses have come on board, and they are suffering from PTSD. It helps, and it gives them some hope. It gives them, they can't control what's going on around them, but they found they can control how they react to it. And it's helping them to go back in through those hospital doors again to take care of people that are dying every day still here in Massachusetts. And I am so grateful that I have something to offer them.
That's great, Patty. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Patty, I'm afraid you're starting to break up your audio. Your audio is not coming through as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm really inspired to hear about your experience and how you're sharing it, and as I like to say, lighting more candles with the work that you're doing out there. So thanks for teaching it, dude. Okay, I believe that is all the time we have for Q&A today. So Mr. Holden, our time is almost at an end. Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Well, I think we've brought up some powerful points, some deep insights. I always appreciate us getting together as a collective to have this kind of conversation and to invest our energy into gratitude and solutions and empowerment from the inside out. And I think something to think about, this is an ancient practice that came from, you know, the mystics in the mountains of China, studying nature and how nature works, and really going into their inner laboratories, their mind-body system, to discover what the universe is truly all about. And in that path of self-discovery, they came out with wisdom and knowledge and tools and techniques. And from those mountains of ancient China, through history, through word of mouth from teacher to students, you know, they've somehow made their way to us in the West. And that's something to be grateful for. And I think it's important to remember that these are tools and techniques and resources that we can now expand our toolbox for how to deal with life, its modern problems, its stressors. And as you practice this, you start to acquire tools for yourself that when you're like facing life's challenges, you can open up that toolbox and go, here's a resource that I can really lean into that'll help to solve that particular issue that now I'm facing. And life just keeps throwing challenges at us. And if we have the tools and resources, we don't get overwhelmed. If we don't have the resources, we get overwhelmed. Stress becomes detrimental. We get into a place within ourselves that's not feeling good. And, you know, what I really like to do is just help people to empower themselves to get those tools and resources. And these kind of conversations are a way to integrate, to create coherency in our group field, to set intention on things like compassion and kindness, inner power, and Qi. So thank you all for joining. Much appreciated. I look forward to our next conversation and to sharing the Qi with you all again soon.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful to see you all again and connect with you all again and feel you all out there raising the vibration with us. And hope to see some of you on our live classes for the subscribers and upcoming workshop this weekend, which is exciting. And the rest of you just online. And next time we do a tea with Lee. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye all.